It is a rather quiet, somewhat cloudy day here, and you're watching the RPG channel. Thank you for that. So, the other night I was at this club talking to a stripper, and we got into this conversation about active and passive defense in role-playing games, and which ones were better suited for particular genres. And while I was sitting there talking to her about this, it occurred to me that this is actually a pretty important aspect of the way games work and like how their basic mechanics are structured, and also that this was the second time I've had this conversation while looking at someone's teats. So, active and passive defenses are really important combat considerations. In a system that does passive defense, you have a situation like you have in D&D where the entire burden of success or failure is basically on the part of the aggressor. And this was very popular in older games, and D&D specifically, I think probably because of the wargaming roots of early role-playing games. And it just kind of stuck. And then when you get into active defense games, you have situations where the defender also has some of the burden of responsibility when it comes to actively avoiding the hit. The difference here is that advocates of one system seem to claim that it's a lot faster and cleaner, while the other one says it's a lot more exciting. And, okay, here's my thoughts on the matter. Whenever you bring up active defense in role-playing, the biggest complaint that people get about that is that it seriously slows combat down. Combat's already really slow. In most games you're taking a few minutes at most of action and spreading that out to probably at least a couple of hours of gameplay. So it's already going to be pretty slow. And not long after they make this one, they will come up with another example using Old World of Darkness, which is kind of the whipping boy when it comes to reasons why active defense is bad. And the reason Old World of Darkness gets this so much is because in Old World of Darkness, the burden was shifted back and forth so many times in a round, you're looking at multiple die rolls made by both parties for every single attack being made. So, for example, let's say you have two vampires wearing trench coats and wielding katanas. That's pretty redundant by itself. So, one vampire attacks the second vampire. The second vampire then has the opportunity to defend, and if not outright negate the attack, at least take away some of the impact of the attack, making the attack lesser. So then, the attacking vampire has to modify his damage score by the successes that the defending vampire rolled while defending from the attack, and then the attacking vampire will roll his damage accordingly, modified by the defense and the weapon in the attack mode being used. At which point, the defending vampire will then have to roll again based on their stamina score and other supernatural traits to determine whether or not they actually take any of the damage that's being delivered from the attack after it was modified by their defense roll. And then there were numerous other supernatural complications that could come in just because of the nature of the characters involved in this game, and then the defending vampire is most likely just going to regenerate anyway, making the whole thing a moot point. Which brings me to my point. When it comes to defense, you have to think about what type of game you're actually running. In a game like Dungeons & Dragons, or Old World of Darkness, or New World of Darkness, or some iterations of GURPS that I've seen, any type of game that you're playing where taking a hit in combat is not that big of a deal, a passive defense system will actually serve you really well, because it's a lot faster, and the main focus of succeeding at an attack there isn't killing your enemy necessarily, it's depleting them of whatever resources they have available that is keeping them alive. I think that's a leaf blower? Okay, we'll say it's a leaf blower. So, you deplete them of their life-sustaining resources. Whereas in other games, that have much more lethal combat, where a single hit is quite possibly an outright disaster, if not just dead, such as games like Devil's Crossroad, Shameless Plug, Devil's Crossroad, Shameless Plug, cough, cough, Devil's Crossroad. It's more important that you provide an active defense, because you don't want to make the players feel like their characters are just dying arbitrarily without giving them an opportunity to defend themselves. And in these type games, avoiding a single hit is a lot more important than it is in other games where you have a substantial amount of hit points or life or regenerative powers or stuff like that. So I think that is what the dividing line should be. And it doesn't come down to, well, it makes combat faster, it makes combat boring, it makes combat more exciting. It's actually a lot more involved with how you want the game to be played, and should be looked at as a pretty important part of the game as a whole, and not just something that's tacked on at the end. So those are my thoughts on the matter. This is something I've been thinking about a lot lately as I've been rewriting the rules for Devil's Crossroad. And thank you for watching the RPG channel. I will talk to you later. Nazis make horrible pilots.